right, good evening, everyone. It's my favorite time of the day. I get to use the gavel. And I'd like to call the meeting back to order for open session. We're going to go ahead and start with the flag salute. And in honor of National School Counselor Week, I'd like to invite Zamora High School lead counselor Jackie Nia to the podium to lead us in the flag salute. Following the flag salute, please remain standing for a moment of silence for retired district employee Patrick O'Donnell. As Jackie makes her way to the podium, which she did faster than I could get out, I just want to say a little bit of information about Jackie. Jackie is the lead counselor at Sonora High School and is a proud Raider. This is her 8th year in the district and 3rd as a counselor at Sonora High School. Ms. Nia earned her bachelor's degree in international relations with a minor in Spanish from the University of California, Irvine. Her master's degree is in educational counseling from the California State University, Dominguez Hills. And in addition, she holds a credential in PPS and administrative services.
Thank you. Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. If everybody could just remain standing for 1 minute. I'd just like to read this briefly. Pat O'Donnell was hired by the district in 1956 as a driver's education instructor and coach at La Habra High School. In 1958, he began teaching physical education and shortly thereafter added department chair to his role, all while still coaching. Mr. O'Donnell served the district until 1988, when he retired after 32 years of service. Shortly after his retirement, he returned to the district in a substitute role until 1994. Mr. O'Donnell passed away on January 25th, 2022, at the age of 97. Sympathy and support are offered to the family and friends of Patrick O'Donnell. Thank you. Okay. Earlier this evening, the Board of Trustees met in closed session to discuss several items. No action was taken. Next thing on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval.
Thank you, Marilyn. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chester. I'd like to ask our student board member, Grace Lee, for her preferential vote.
I approve.
Thank you. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has passed. Next is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 11th regular board meeting?
Move approval.
Thank you, Marilyn. Second? Thank you, Vicki. Any discussion? Grace, would you like to cast a preferential vote?
I approve.
Thank you. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Do any board members have any correspondence that they'd like to share? Okay. And so now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our student board member, Grace Lee.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, board members, and distinguished guests. This is my student board member report for February. The Student Advisory Council is meeting tomorrow at Buena Park to discuss symposium and the district-wide community service project. As for school updates, Buena Park has been continuing workshops to prepare for the PEP Week, where different grade levels will be battling in various spirit activities during lunch. PEP Week is planning to be on the week of March 14th. ASB is also planning a Buena Park Madness, where students can form their own basketball teams and compete against each other in March Madness style. Sunny Hills ASB is having their Lancer Love Week this week, where there are various spirit days like Ride the Wave and Life Would Be Unbearable Without You. Their boys varsity basketball team also advanced to CIF, so they are ramping up school spirit for their first game on Friday. Sonora recently held their senior night for their basketball games, and they also advanced to CIF, and ASB is preparing posters and boosting their school spirit for their game also on Friday. They're having a Valentine's Day Candy Grams fundraiser. Troy ASB is having their annual Sadie's Asking competition where the winner gets two free tickets to the Sadie's dance. The Sadie's theme is Pier 22 and students will be dressing up in beach wear. Food Fest is also this Friday and tickets are currently being sold. La Sierra has been very active in school spirit. They are continuing their spirit days each week. ASB also had an activity to celebrate Chinese New Year where they hung lanterns in the quad and handed out fortune cookies. La Habra has been having their You Are More week where students can participate in various spirit days. Some examples are Peace and Love Hippie Day and Dreaming of Kindness PJ Day. ASB is also starting a fundraiser where students can purchase a Valentine's Day gram. Fullerton is advertising their grad night, which will be at Disneyland. To celebrate Valentine's Day, they are having a Where's the Love Spirit Week. Fullerton also announced a new initiative on their Instagram page called Tribe News, where they post important announcements and recaps of the week. Thank you, and that concludes my student board member report for February.
Thank you very much, Grace. At this time, we're going to hear from our principals for their school reports. So Dr. McLaughlin, would you like to introduce our principals?
Yeah, and we are still in a kind of an adjusted setting here at the dais here. So our principals are in the back of the room. So I want to let's go with we'll go in order. So Mrs. Leana from La Vista La Sierra.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. My last 4 board reports have focused on different programs that operate under the umbrella of La Sierra. The ABC program, which serves students with disciplinary issues, the ATP program, which helps adult special education students focus on their vocational and independent living goals, the iSierra Online Academy, which serves independent study students, and the Opportunity program, designed for 10th grade students who fell behind their freshman year. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the 5th and final La Sierra program, Home Hospital. Home Hospital is designed for students who are medically identified by a physician as not being able to attend regular school. Teachers are sent to the home or hospital setting to provide instruction. What makes our program unique is that it is staffed by 6 full-time teachers. The benefit of having dedicated staff to support these medically fragile students is significant. It allows our students to access instruction during regular school hours, which normalizes their routine despite their medical challenges. It also leaves the time after school for relaxation and the family-friend connections that are essential components of their healing. Finally, having career home hospital teachers allows for a focus on the instruction, curriculum, and assessment unique to the assignment, which leads to increased learning for all students. Our teachers have a natural empathy for the students and families that they serve, but they're also specifically trained. They attend the Hospital Educator Academic Liaison Conference, are restorative practice trained, and are certified in trauma-informed instruction. I think the following quote from one of our parents says it best. "The home hospital program was a bright light for our family during a very dark time. When your child is ill, it's incredibly difficult and stressful, and while their health is the priority, there is also a desire to provide them some normalcy, distract from their illness, and to keep them on track for graduation. The home hospital program was invaluable to us and our child in so very many ways. Because of the program, she was able to return to in-person school in January, will graduate with her peers this year, and was able to apply to colleges. Our home teacher, Tracy Fenstermaker, was simply amazing and brought compassion, knowledge, enthusiasm, and hope for the future to both our child and to us. We are so very grateful for the home hospital program." Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Leana. From Sonora Strong, Mr. Atkins.
Good evening, Dr. McLaughlin. Good evening, Board President Klatzker, board members, and student board member. It is my privilege this evening to highlight some student achievement from a couple of specialized areas over at Sonora High School. First, our award-winning ag program. Savannah Grove is a Sonora senior who is running for state office and has been selected to go to state competition in Sacramento. Then we have Matthew Mehta, also in the ag program, who has been selected to represent Sonora Raider Ranch at the regional level of the job interview competition. We had 2 students, Joey Kling and Anthony Pavlik, who received acceptances to West Point. We have many other early acceptances already into Cal States and interviews occurring right now. So stay tuned to our next board report. I should have a lot of names to share with you. We want to thank all of our students and teams for competing this winter in our sports seasons. Their leadership and dedication is immeasurable, and we are so thankful for their impact on the programs and on our school culture. We would like to spotlight our girls and boys basketball teams, wrestling team, and girls soccer team for earning a berth into the first round of CIF starting this week. Congratulations to our dance drill team for representing Sonora well in their first live in-person competition in 2 years, last Saturday at El Dorado. They placed second in their small military division and first in small dance drill, their Lady Gaga routine. I would start singing, but I do not know any Lady Gaga. Last but certainly not least is I would like to recognize our Employees of the Year for Sonora High School. Miss Darlene Clark is one of our special ed teachers in our Mod to Severe program. And for our classified, we have Teresa Zambrano, who is my right hand, my aunt. She looks out for everyone at Sonora High School. So that concludes my board report. Thank you for your attention.
All right, from La Habra High School, Mr. Eels.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. This month's report is one of celebrations for La Habra High School. We start off with the celebration of 2 incredible employees at La Habra High School. One, our senior records clerk, who is our registrar, Miss Ruth Morales, and our lead counselor, Dr. Diana Flores. They were nominated by the administrative team for Parenting OC's Employee of the Year. We received notification recently that each of them are a top 10 finalist for this award. So we're very excited for them, and it is definitely deserved. We look forward to finding out this next month. They were represented or recognized this month in the magazine, and next month we'll find out if they happen to, or one of them happens to win the award. Next, I'd like to honor and celebrate this year's Teacher and Employee of the Year for La Habra High School. Teacher Holly Ryan was nominated and selected by her peers, as well as Senior Records Clerk Maggie Chavez. Miss Ryan is an English teacher that teaches honors and within our Forensics, Police, and Fire Academy. She is innovative, engaging, positive, and a student favorite. Miss Chavez works in our attendance office. She's upbeat, she's pleasant, and always helps students and parents and guardians with a smile. We were lucky enough to steal her from Disneyland, and she brings that Disney magic with her every day, pointing with 2 fingers and everything with a smile. Both are fairly new to our site and have obviously made an incredible impact that is seen by so many. These 2 ladies are committed to building relationships and leading with a positive attitude. The lives they have touched in just a short time is phenomenal for both of them. Finally, I'd like to honor and celebrate a few of our winter sport programs. Girls soccer had a fantastic year this year and are headed to first round in CIF, and they will play this Saturday at 5 p.m. versus San Marcos at home. Girls water polo, I'm getting updates. I'm not looking at them because I'm so focused in here. However, I do know the last time they were up 12-1 in the 4th. And this is first round play. They were at home, but that is at Sunny Hills High School for us. And they obviously, I believe, will be victorious and moving on to Thursday, second round against Luera at Luera. So we're excited about that. Our competitive cheer program went into CIF competition for them this last week. They finished as runner-ups, so they were very excited, but a little disappointed that they came up short as they were CIF champions this past year, but are looking forward to state, which happens for them in the next couple of weeks. And then finally, wrestling. This past week, our team went to league finals. 14 of our wrestlers qualified for CIF play, 9 on the boys' side and 5 on the girls' side. We had 3 first place and 6 second place finishers in their weight class on the boys' side, and 4 first place and 1 second place finisher in their weight class on the girls' side. So we're super excited for them. We wish all of our teams and individuals good luck as they continue and prepare to start or further their length of time in playoffs, and wish them the best of luck. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Eels. I think Dr. Minster is next from Troy.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, member of the board. There's some great things happening for students at Troy High School, and I'm going to mention only 2. From our Cyber Patriot coach, Mr. Alan Stubblefield, last Friday it was announced that Troy Cyber will defend its 2021 National Championship in Cyber Patriot. It's in the All Services Division. Troy will make the 8th appearance in 9 years in the Cyber Patriot Nationals, being held in Washington, D.C. on March 18th to 20th. The competition will be in person for those teams who are allowed to travel. Team Runtime Terror, which if you guys ever did anything with syntax, it's like runtime error, but I think they had a typo. But anyway, Runtime Terror finished the semifinals first place in the All Services Division and are determined to keep that spot next month in the finals. Team members are Justin Huang, Senior, Johnny Nee, Junior, Brian Nee, Junior, Team Captain, Chan Chung, Junior, Anna Wu, Sophomore, and Taiyu Shin, Sophomore. Then from our lead officer in charge of Troy's NJRTC, Lieutenant Chris Cecil, last Saturday, and I had the opportunity to go watch them. At Santa Ana High School, Troy became the 2022 NJRTC State Regional Drill Academic and Athletic State Champions. And our elite team, Troy Black, won first place overall in NJRTC Drill, qualified the 40 candidates for the NJRTC National Drill Meet Championship in Pensacola, Florida on April 1st and 2nd. Thank you to Lieutenant Cecil, Lieutenant Fronick, First Sergeant Lyon, First Sergeant Barnes, the cadets, cadet family supporters, and Commander Bill Lopper, the former leader of the program. Just for context, out of 13 categories, Troy Black finished 9 places in first. And that's from push-ups, curl-ups, relay, academics, unarmed regulation, armed exhibition, overall drill, overall physical training. Those are first places. And then some state champions also. Female curl-up champion, state champion Wendy On, male push-up state champion Patrick academic state champion Tyler Dang. And for the record, the female curl-up state champion, which is like a sit-up, she did in the 5-minute time period over 300 of those things. It was, I can't even fathom it. I watched it, and it was, people started crowding around and cheering her on and to keep going as she did. And then she actually ran out of time. She kept going. So that's it. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Oh, very impressive. I was going to ask how many push-ups there were, but the curl-ups and sit-ups, that's even harder.
I don't know on the push-ups. Not as many.
Thanks, Dr. Minster. From Fullerton High School is Mrs. Rubio.
Good evening, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. I do want to also take this opportunity to openly thank our counselors and guidance techs in honor of School Guidance Counselor Week. They are the heartbeat of our school and lead the way in supporting our students through everything academic or not. Especially these last 2 years, they have been detrimental to all of our well-being, really. And I know that I can feel secure in knowing that they are constantly on it with our kids. So thank you for them. So today I would like to highlight our FUHS Instructional Leads, or as we call them on our site, SLPs, which stands for Strategic Learning Plan, our amazing teachers, Maggie Crail and Kristen Cruz, under which our instructional focus and professional development opportunities have really flourished. Over the last 6 to 7 years, our staff have been trained in various instructional strategies and have a focus on student ownership of their own learning. Maggie and Kristen became the leads of this movement 3 years ago, and it has grown to be a strong support system for our staff. They have led instructional walkthroughs with staff, for staff, and have supported them one-on-one on how to improve their practice and help students become better learners. They have led professional development sessions and taken surveys to inform their plans and focus on the needs of our staff. They have also been essential in supporting our newest teachers at FUHS and giving them constructive feedback that will definitely help them in the long run. Our staff has been willing to volunteer and participate in various activities that Maggie and Kristen have put together because they are well-run and they have created a trusting and supporting environment for all. This was especially helpful these last 2 years because their work did not stop. They simply adapted and turned to helping our staff as we tried to find ways to engage our students through distance learning. It is great to be their partner in creating these opportunities because in the end, our time and efforts are all about helping our kids succeed. Lastly, I do want to also congratulate 4 of our sports teams that are continuing on to CIF play this week: boys soccer, wrestling, boys basketball, and girls water polo, which I was just notified a few minutes ago. I did take a sneak peek, and we did win the game just a few minutes ago. So it was 12-10 against Thousand Oaks High School. So we're very excited about that. We're moving on. So we think it might be Trabuco Hills next. So we're hoping to continue moving on there for sure. The rest of the games we'll find out about later this week. So this is exciting news for Fullerton for sure. Thank you, and that concludes my board report.
Thank you, Mrs. Rubio. We're going to go to Buena Park High School and Dr. Berg.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klasker, and members of the board. I have a number of students to highlight this month, and so I'm going to start with our winter sports programs as well. Our girls soccer program, they're continuing to grow and finished with the most wins for that program in decades. So that's a huge accomplishment for them, and they're a young team continuing to get better. We're sending 3 wrestlers to CIF: Alex Robledo, who took 3rd in his weight class, and both Vanessa Andrade and Noemi Sanchez for winning league in their respective weight classes. So good luck to them. Both basketball programs and girls water polo all ended the season with winning records, and our girls water polo program is also competing tonight in the first round of CIF, and I know it was 3-5 at halftime, so we'll see how that goes. But most impressive is the fact that they're competing with 4 freshmen, 1 sophomore, and a senior. That makes up their starting lineup. So it's a very young team, and we're looking for lots of success going forward with that group. On top of that, and so I will highlight our senior, Selena Martinez. She ended the regular season in the CIF record books for most goals scored in a single season with 175. And that currently ranks her 8th all time. And so whatever she scores tonight is only going to help. She might be able to get up to about number 5. So we're looking forward to seeing how well she does. And so they're playing as we speak. So she could potentially get to number 1, but they would need about 3 or 4 more games to get there. On the arts front, so I'm going to switch a little bit over onto that. I had the privilege of touring the district annual art exhibit at the Muckenthaler on opening night, and so it was amazing to see a couple dozen BPHS students' artwork gracing the walls of the Muckenthaler. Junior Juliana Garland's Student in the Mirror piece literally greets you when you walk in the door. So it's that big piece, that circular piece that you see, and it was absolutely amazing. While I was there, senior Alvaro Torres and senior Stella Rodella showcased their pieces for me as well. And I got to snap a few pictures and stick them up on social media, so that was fun. And then collectively, these students are some of our standouts in an already impressive class of fine art students at Buena Park. Huge kudos to Alicia Archunde and Marjorie Brown for their work building the BPHS fine arts side of our Coyote Academy of Visual and Performing Arts. Their impressive AP pass rates and quantity of students earning AP fine arts credit year after year is among the best in the area, so they do a fantastic job. And then lastly, I want to celebrate our teacher and classified staff of the year, Earl Bench. He is our social science department chair and all-around fantastic teacher, well deserving for him. And Diana Oseguera is my secretary, and so I can just go on and on about her because she's right outside my door and we work very closely together, but well deserving for both of them. They really help make Buena Park shine. So, and that concludes my board report.
Thank you, Dr. Berg. And last but not least, from Sunny Hills High School, as we know, we have interim principal Kathy Gauck. In her stead is Dr. Simpson, our assistant principal of instruction and operation, also known as APIO, right?
Correct.
All right, thanks.
So thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. With winter sports wrapping up, we are thrilled to have 6 teams at Sunny Hills advancing to CIF playoffs. Our Freeway League champions, girls water polo team, our Freeway League champion boys soccer team, our girls soccer team, our boys and girls basketball team, and 4 of our wrestlers. We are also excited to celebrate our counselors during Counselor Appreciation Week with endless appreciation from our staff and students. This week, Sunny Hills ASB is celebrating Lancer Love with kindness-filled daily student spirit days and acts of kindness activities. Last, we're excited to announce the official date for our International Food Fair, set for March 17th. We would like to extend a warm invitation to the board and district administration to join the festivities and watch our students perform that day. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thanks, Dr. Stinson. President Klatzker?
Thank you, everyone, for those reports. It's always so wonderful to hear about the amazing people and staff that support our kids at our school. So thank you for letting us know about all that and the wonderful activities going on. Do any of the board members have information that they'd like to share with the board? It's timely information time. Okay. So next up on our agenda is Employee Association updates.
President Klatzker, may I say a word?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I forgot to look in your direction.
That's okay. We've shifted seats, so it throws off a little bit. But thank you, President Klatzker, member of the board, and audience, and members at home. Just an opportunity to speak, as I try to do each and every month. Give a few different updates. One, just a National Counselor Week, and honoring our counselors. And we did invite Ms. Nia from Sonora High School to come in and represent a greater counseling core and academic advisors that we have on our site. We know these people are invaluable, especially this time in our lives, not just social emotional support, but the academic planning that they do. They're integral in ensuring the success of our kids. And so it's a small attempt to do some recognition in person. It brings me to my next one, where we're excited, and everything's hopefully, all right, at this moment, we intend to start to come back to some normal things where we're going to start honoring some employees and maybe some student recognitions. We can bring those back to the board meeting in March. So that's our intent. This was a little nod to that this month, but we hope to bring more people in front so we can celebrate them officially in front of the board and out there to the greater community. So excited for that. In the kind of moving to the normal stage, just I guess my monthly COVID update. We did send out an information on Friday. We do intend to send out an update again this Friday, because as you know, once we send out a message, something changes. And we did have that happen to us. So we wait on Friday. We send it up as an update, and it is reported that beginning February 15th, the state is going to be rolling back their mask mandate for vaccinated people inside and changing their mega events back to 1,000. And for us, mostly it's 1,000, because we never go up to 10,000. I don't think, inside. And so with that being said, it's almost a reversion back to where we were in November. So with respects to K-12 schools, it still is mask requirements for students indoors and staff, but it does add a little relaxation when it comes to non-school sites for some of our employees, like the service center. I know Joe and the team out there. So there's a bit of relaxation coming back to us from that lens, but we're also watching closely how the state might adjust as we move forward, and any other updates we'll make sure we send out to the community. So I would say expect probably weekly emails from us in the near future over the next couple of weeks, rather than once a month, that will try to address the new and changing issues, as we always have here moving forward. So we're encouraged by the recent data, really proud of the work done in January and navigating this continued crisis on behalf of staff, our community. We were able to hold things together, I think, pretty tightly, maintain a sense of normalcy, and really be successful as we went through that recent surge. So excited about that. We do have something on the board agenda. I just want to make a comment. It's the last one. It talks about virtual meetings in this age of COVID. That's just an option, and I think it's important for the board, and also they know, but the community. It just gives the district the authority, if needed, to go back to virtual meetings. They changed that a few months ago, so we have to reauthorize that once a month. So we'll just put it on there. We don't have any intent of being virtually moving forward, but in the case of a crisis or things start to spike up back again, it does allow us to continue our business virtually. But again, just to reassure everybody, it's just the option. It's not a thing that we're intending to do as a district moving forward. And then the final announcement is Sunny Hill's principal. It was not to announce the principal, but we're moving forward in the process. So very excited to say that we're looking forward to that job closing here in the next, I think, week. It's going to close, but myself and Dr. Atkinson are going to go out to Sunny Hills High School I believe, next week, and we're going to meet with student groups, teacher, certificated groups, classified groups, and parent groups to seek some input in person with them so that we can get a kind of a broader understanding of what the community is looking for in the principal. We think we're going to have a very strong candidate pool and look forward to going through that process and hopefully bringing a recommendation forward. If we can by March, that would be our goal. So that concludes my remarks tonight.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin, and I didn't mean to skip you. Okay, so back to updates. I'd like to invite President Angie Senkak to the podium to give an update from FSTO.
Good evening, President Klatzker, trustees, Dr. McLaughlin, and student board member Grace Lee. Our FSTO members have been busy these past few weeks at the beginning of our new school year. New ideas are coming to us in FSTO, and we look forward to some new changes and working more closely with the district office, and I will be reporting on those in the next coming weeks and months. On Thursday, FSTO's negotiating team will meet with the district's team to continue working on an agreement to our current contract. It is hoped that a resolution will be reached soon, as a new collective bargaining agreement needs to be opened up in the coming weeks as well. FSTO and our UniServe Center, the North Orange County United Teachers, which consists of our 5 sister districts, Buena Park Elementary, La Habra Elementary, Fullerton Elementary, Brea Olinda Unified, and Fullerton Secondary, are excited to announce that we are hosting 2 of our CTA leaders in the coming weeks. Toby Boyd, who is our CTA president, will be visiting with Brea Olinda Teachers Association on Tuesday, February 22nd. Toby will be visiting a few school sites in Brea, and No Cut will be hosting a luncheon with him that afternoon, as well as a question and answer period. Vice President David Goldberg will be visiting FSTO on April 19th. His day will be filled with activities, and he will also join us for our Rep Council meeting that afternoon. David will also be able to visit the Ed Center and meet with Dr. McLaughlin and others who are here that day, and open up some much anticipated and long-awaited relationships within this part of Southern California, which we rarely get to see them because they're based in Northern California. FSTO is so excited to participate in hosting our leaders, and we look forward to reporting back on their visits. FSTO has finally made its final mortgage payment on our current no-cut building in Brea. We are now the proud 1/5 owner of our new offices, and we can focus our financial efforts now and resources in other areas, especially where it comes to member engagement activities, professional development, and in growing our chapter. And lastly, a heartfelt thank you to our district counselors and our FSTO members. As we celebrate National School Counselors Week this week, we so appreciate all of their hard work and dedication to our students and the help they provide to us teachers on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, President Senkak. I'd like to invite President Joe Sliker to the podium to give an update from CSEA.
Thank you. Hello, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. I wanted to thank the board and the district for voluntarily extending SB 95, which is otherwise known as COVID leave, until March 18th of this year. We really appreciate the support as well as we all navigate this difficult time through this pandemic. I also wanted to publicly thank Mrs. Bucci, Mrs. Fowley, Dr. McLaughlin, and Dr. Atkinson for attending our officer installation last Saturday. This ceremony was a countywide event, and our district had more board members and administrators present than any other district in the county. What a great show of support for our classified employees. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sliker. Linda, do we have a representative? Okay, do we have a representative from the Fullerton Council PTA? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is an update from the Fullerton Council PTA. This is from Co-President Randy Reed. Good evening, President Klatzker, members of the board, Dr. McLaughlin, cabinet, and principals. Fullerton Council has wrapped up a successful Art Reflections contest. We held a virtual gallery on January 25th to showcase our talented students. You can view this slideshow through our Fullerton Council PTA Facebook page. We are extremely pleased to announce the following artists whose entries are moving on to the next level, where they will be competing against students from all Orange County. In the visual arts category, Anya P. from Troy High School, 9th grade student. In photography, Fullerton Union High School 10th grade student Evelyn A. In literature, a 10th grade student from Troy High School, Priya A. In music composition, a 10th grade student from Troy High School, Anna W. And in film production, a 10th grade student from Troy High School, Ariana P. They didn't provide the last names. Congratulations, and we wish you all the best in the next round. Fullerton Council is also excited to have graduating seniors apply for their annual scholarship. Applications will be available in the counseling offices at each school site, and the recipients will be awarded at our annual spring luncheon in April. We know all of our seniors are very happy to have grad nights happening again, along with all of the wonderful spring events coming up. Thank you all for helping keep our students and staff safe and healthy. That's the end.
Thank you, Ms. Harder. Next on our agenda is public comments. At this time, we'll call for public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the board may do so by submitting a speaker request form. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person and 30 minutes per topic. So our first speaker tonight is Keith Altman.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Keith Altman, and I've come here from miserably cold and cloudy Detroit to be with you tonight, and I'm enjoying the weather. Unfortunately for me, I'm basically blind, and so I've asked that I be able to move the podium a little closer so I have some chance of seeing some of your faces. So the administration has graciously accommodated me, and so I think we're going to move up at this time.
How close would you like it?
I guess about this spot. Just tell us when. That should be good. And given my difficulties, if I may have a little bit of latitude in my speaking, I would appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we're here tonight to discuss the matter of my client, Benji Cruz. Benji, would you stand up for a second? Benji is facing expulsion based on an incident where it was alleged that he handled a knife with another person. Before we go into the main issue, I want to talk about the fact that Benji has social emotional disorder and has difficulty functioning with respect to interacting with other people and having emotional issues, et cetera, things like that. This is part of an IEP for which he currently has based on other disabilities and other issues. Now, in August of 2021, there was an incident where Benji was involved in an altercation with another student. And the facts of the altercation are not really important, but what is important is that this should have put the school on notice that they really need to take a careful look at Benji and whether his IEP was adequate, whether he needed additional support services. And at the time, no such inquiry took place. And that really was a disservice to Benji, who really was entitled to somebody assessing what was going on with respect to him. And as I said, Benji suffers from difficulty dealing with social interactions. The incident that we're here for tonight is where he was alleged to have handled a switchblade knife. Now, interestingly, the investigation that took place showed that there was no witnesses other than another student who said that he took the knife from her, that any of the school officials who were involved, not one of them saw this incident actually take place. Nevertheless, he was found responsible for the situation and he was expelled. Unfortunately, with respect to the investigation, it was not done in a thorough manner. There are severe inconsistencies in the witness statements, and it is very questionable as to whether it took place as alleged. But putting the merits of the underlying incident aside, the real question here is how did the school handle the situation after the allegations were lodged? Now, because Benji has an IEP, he was entitled to an MDR, which is a review of whether the IEP is appropriate, whether his condition may have contributed to the incident, and whether the IEP was complied with. And the implication is that with an MDR, if his condition contributed to the incident, or he's not getting the IEP as he's supposed to get, then the MDR says that disciplinary action is not appropriate, and that there needs to be some other way of dealing with the matter. Well, the MDR that was done here did not properly address either one of those things and was defective. And this is a very serious issue because, once again, his social interactions are suspect and in question. If I may have just a brief amount of additional time, I would appreciate it.
So, Mr. Altman, I just want to let you know we can extend you like no more than 30 seconds to finish up, just because we limit all speakers to 3 minutes.
Well, given my limitations, I would just ask maybe a little bit more. In any event, the situation was not adjudicated, was adjudicated from what I call the bottom-up method, which means there appears to be a violation, let's punish. What should have been done is the top-down. What happened here? Why did it happen? What could we do differently to keep this from happening again? And what can we learn from this? That never took place. This was just simply, there appears to be a violation, let's punish. Now, why did this happen? Well, part of it is we think that there's some bias with respect to Benji, that his racial heritage may be at stake here, and his disability may be at stake here. But in any event, the question is expulsion really the appropriate solution here? Or is there another consequence which would be more appropriate, which would be more reflective of his circumstances, and would be a better solution to the problem than simply tossing him aside and expelling him?
Mr. Altman, I'm going to have to go ahead and cut you off because it's gone over that time, but thank you very much.
Now, just one thing, we're going to hand out, we have some materials that we'd like to hand out to the board for your review, which will get handed out.
They actually would go to staff, so if you can give them to staff, we'll make sure that the board gets it.
No problem.
Thank you.
And if appropriate, can Mr. Cruz have a few minutes just to read 1 minute or so to read the cover letter associated with it? I mean, I believe it would be a separate speaker. That'd be okay?
Mr. Cruz would have his own comment card, and he'd be limited to 3 minutes.
That's fine. Can he do this right now, and then he'll fill out the speaker card, and it will be less than 3 minutes?
That would be fine.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'll be brief. Dear school board trustees, tonight you will be making a decision as to whether or not to accept the board panel recommendation of expelling my son, Benji Cruz, a 10th grade student with an IEP at Troy High School. I have struggled over the past several months to be heard by the school staff and believe significant due process errors at the school and district level have created a prejudicial bias against my son. As a result of the school-based administration not conducting a thorough investigation and not transparently sharing notes and statements of all involved, my son did not have a fair manifestation determination review meeting, nor did he have a fair expulsion hearing. For this reason, I immediately request to appeal directly to you. The district then spent several weeks discussing with me the terms of a confidential settlement agreement, an agreement that was very favorable to my son. However, I choose not to do this because I am adamant that the school personnel failed my son and didn't implement the appropriate procedures, in part because my son falls into the stereotype of a cholo, street thug, of Mexican descent, who was labeled as not able to succeed. Moreover, I believe there are many other students who fit my son's profile, and I don't want any other child to experience this. Our story needs to be heard. I was informed that I would only be given 3 minutes to make a statement, and I would not be allowed to present during your deliberations, as it will occur during the board's closed session. I am very dismayed that even at the board of trustee level, with our elected officials, I will not be able to truly advocate for my son. My attorney tonight will provide key points describing my concerns and why you should vote against an expulsion. However, since my goal is for this to not happen to any other student, I have compiled a packet that includes a detailed account of my experiences this school year. It specifically highlights with proof how Benjamin Tomas Cruz was failed, not just in discipline matters, but with the actual implementation of his IEP. Respectfully, Ben Cruz. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
These are the packets, and I would hope that they would be dispersed amongst all of you.
Thank you very much. We'll make sure they get to everyone. Next speaker is Leah Wisnick. Yeah. Can you not hear me? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Leah Wisink. Good evening, President Klatzker, Dr. McLaughlin, trustees. You know, there has been a lot of discussion about our children's mental and emotional health, but yet not one person has spoken about how the mask mandate are detrimental to our kids. Per the CDC, there are over 9 million kids in the state of California between the ages of 1 and 18 years old. From 2020 to 2022, there have been 6,202 total all-cause deaths. 63 deaths involve COVID, making the mortality rate for children under the age of 18 in California 0.0007%. Los Angeles psychologist Dr. Mark McDonald calls mask mandates child abuse. He states that masking causes tremendous harm to children physically, emotionally, psychologically, and developmentally. The fact of the matter is that there has not been one single study to show that masking children has zero negative effects on kids. And here we are already witnessing the deterioration of our children's mental health. The kicker is that we don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now to these kids, to this generation of children. We don't know what's going to happen 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, name it. We don't know. Jen Psaki said today, she said in regards to Phil Murphy lifting the mask mandates for the kids in March in the state of New Jersey, she says it's up to the local school districts to implement mask mandates. So now you have stated before that you're just following orders, that you're just doing what is told to you by the state of California. Well, that's not leading. It's time for you to lead and make mask optional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Stacy McDonald.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for hearing my words. I have 3 children, I have 3 children. One of them is in the Fullerton School District, high school district. We moved here for the school districts. We want our kids to go to Troy High School. We bought our house in 2004 so our kids could go here. My daughter is one of, I guess, the now statistics of having mental health issues from masking and just everything that has been going on. Sorry, I get emotional. It's very disappointing and heartbreaking that we have all of you that could speak for our children and you're choosing not to. And you could be doing the right thing, but you're choosing not to. And it is all about choice. We all have choices. And I think that the children should have a choice to wear a mask. We should all have a choice whether to be vaccinated or unvaccinated, and it shouldn't be such a divide. It is affecting our children tremendously, and I really hope that my children can continue to go to Troy if you guys enforce the mandate, because the governor says so. We will remove our children. I know we've heard that many of times from other parents as well. Things are constantly changing, and I think you should look for those changes and not, I mean, obviously the science isn't always being followed, and kind of everything's more political now. I just wish that you guys would listen to the parents when they say choice is important. So I don't know. I just felt the urge to come and speak. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Sarah.
I'm back. Sorry. Good evening. Unfortunately, as one of the teachers in this district has addressed my child in her own class, I am one of those crazy conservative parents showing up to every board meeting and speaking. And that's a fact. That was addressed in a class, but that's a whole nother subject. Unfortunately for some, I'm not going to stop until I feel like our children's rights and voices are being heard and they're protected. As a parent, our children, this is my job, is to protect my child and all children around my children, because they are the future generation of this country and of this world. At this point, my biggest concern and frustration is the mask. If I could, I would take this off in a second. Masks should be a choice, as well as the vaccine. But right now, with everything going on and this mask mandate being lifted by our governor, which all of a sudden things are looking great and it's going to be great the 15th, I feel like our children need to be addressed too. They should be unmasked first. They are the least at risk, so they should be the first to unmask. It should be a choice. I support anyone that wants to take their kid to school and wear a mask, 2 masks, 3 masks, I don't care. But let parents and children make a choice. My child comes home 3 days out of the week, and I just started noticing this with a headache. And I'm wondering, what's going on? You know, are you drinking water? Everything is, did you drink water? Did you eat? Did you drink water? And she is. And you know, I don't think that's what it is. I don't know if it's a lack of oxygen or what. And we have to remember too, and it's just starting to come out, which I'm in healthcare. I know how masks work. I know how real masks work. A mask is effective when it's fitted properly, and it's a KN95 fitted specifically to your face. At my work, we have a 3D thing that actually does an image of our face. This stuff is just all theatrical. I'm gonna be honest. My daughter the other day came to the car, she goes, Mom, look, her hair blew, and you could see the air come out. Okay, she wore her mask to school, but I'm gonna be honest. She's sitting next to Joe, she's sitting next to Charlize, they're all getting the same air. So can we please stop and think about what we're really trying to promote and do here? I don't know if it's money. I don't know if you guys get funding. I just don't see why. And think why. And as Leah stated earlier, the press secretary just came out saying school boards have the choice. So I don't know where this has come from. Things are changing. Medical science has not changed. Political science has, and that's the part I'm very frustrated with as a parent. And I sit back and I watch my children be put on the back burner, and things just, it's not adding up anymore. Please advocate for our students. Like I said, people can still wear masks, people still get vaccines. If it works, they should be fine. That's my point, but just have choice. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chandra LaRose.
Hello, thank you for this time. I am a special ed teacher and I have a daughter at Fullerton High School. I'm here to discuss the newly introduced SB 871 bill, which I'm sure you heard about, which mandates COVID vaccines for all California students and removes the personal belief exemption. And this is a very bad bill. It forces parents to choose between homeschooling or vaccinating their child, even if they don't want to do that. And many, many parents that I know of will be pulling their students from school and they'll be homeschooling, and the schools will be losing their ADA money. And just last month, I'm sure we remember that LAUSD had to drop their vaccine mandate since over 34,000 students were not vaccinated by the time they needed to be, and they wouldn't be allowed to be on campus. In several districts, such as Brea Olinda, has surveyed parents and overwhelmingly found parents do not support COVID vaccines for their kids. And so I want to ask you guys to please use your leadership position as your thoughts on this issue carry more weight than what I call my legislators, if they know your position. And I just want to ask that you would call and email your legislators and ask them to withdraw and oppose SB 871. It won't be good for the district, the kids, or anybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for their thoughtful comments. Non-agenda items may not be acted on during the meeting nor discussed by the board. If you'd like further information, please contact us through district website or contact staff members who will be happy to talk to you and follow up with any necessary information. So right now, the board is going to go ahead and take a brief recess. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, everyone, thank you very much. So next on our agenda is reports. So I'd like to go ahead and start by asking Assistant Superintendent Sylvia Kaufman to present the revised board policy.
Thank you, President Klatzker. Members of the Board of Trustees, Superintendent, and guests, this evening, revised Board Policy 5326, grading is being presented for second reading and adoption. The proposed revisions were presented at the October 12, 2021 board meeting for first reading and information. Board Policy 5326 grading has been revised due to the request from counselors and site administrators to allow for greater flexibility for course level changes from 3 weeks to 1 quarter. It is recommended that the revised Board Policy 5326 grading be adopted and effective for the 21-22 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Kaufman. Is there a motion to approve the revised board policy 5326 grading policy?
I motion.
So thank you, Chester. Thank you, Marilyn. I'd like to ask Grace if she'd like to cast a preferential vote.
I approve.
Thank you. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion has passed. Thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Director of Educational Services, Steve Zamora, to give an update on the mid-year Lcap.
Thank you, President Klatzker, members of the board, Dr. McLaughlin. Wow, this feels like it's right there in my face. And this evening, I'm going to be presenting a summary of the mid-year Lcap update reports. You've already received these about a week or so ago, and you've had a chance to look at them. And there's a number of component parts to the summary, and so I want to show you where we're going to go as long as everything works on this thing, and it usually does. Where do I point it? Hold on. There we go. Might need your help. Weston. I'll just say next slide. So I want to give you a little bit of a background that stems basically where we're going. I just want to give you a quick overview of where we're headed tonight and give you some background about AB 130. Most of this comes out of Assembly Bill 130. Assembly Bill 130 calls for school districts to report to their governing board the impact on the budget overview for parents, what's been impacted because of some of the federal dollars that have come our way since the Lcap was approved back in June. We also have to report to the board a supplement to the annual Lcap. That supplement will be part of the Lcap packet of documents that we approved in June, but that's not for tonight. And then also the Lcap mid-year update itself. One thing to remember that tonight is really informational only. You don't have to vote on anything. There's no action item on this. This is just for your information. Next slide, please. So a little bit of the background on the mid-year update. You know, because you were there and you voted on it, back in June of this last year, our Lcap for the 21-22 school year was approved. And in a couple of weeks later, about 3-4 weeks later, AB 130 was passed. And it called for a budget overview for the parents, as I said a few minutes ago, a mid-year update to the annual update, and that annual update has to include a couple of things. One was the supplement to the annual update, so you have an update to the update. Don't get confused. And then there's a mid-year outcome data that we have to look at as well, and mid-year expenditures and implementation to the Lcap itself. And AB 130 also requires us to report this to our governing boards on or before February the 28th, hence the reason for the presentation this evening. Next slide. So the first thing we're going to look at, there's 4 things we're going to look at. The budget overview for parents is the first thing that we're required to update the board on. Next slide, please. I'll show you. This one's fairly simple. It's the simplest and quickest of all of them. So we want to report the impact on the budget overview for parents, the BOP, which is, again, part of our Lcap documentation. The Lcap and budget for the district were approved in June on the same night, June 22nd. The state budget included ESSER 3 federal funds, and obviously that happened later, so those were not included in the Lcap, but probably would have been in there. So we're required to report to the board how that has affected those ESSER 3 funds in particular, affected the LCFF-based funds. And you can see as we adopted the BOP in June, we were at about $145 million for the district LCFF-based funds. And the 18.6, roughly 18.6 million in ESSER 3 funds kicks that up to about 163.8 million. The second thing that we need to report are any additional funds that we received in concentrator grant funds. And as you look at our BOP, we reported about $12.3 million in LCF supplemental funds. And when you look over at the adjusted budget, you'll see that the number doesn't change. And the reason it doesn't change is because our district did not receive any concentrator grant funds for that year. So we didn't get any extra ones either. We didn't get any at all. So that didn't change. Next slide, please. That takes us to the supplement to the annual update. The second requirement of AB 130 is this supplement. Please, next slide. And essentially, the supplement is an attempt to answer 5 questions, and the questions are related to the federal dollars that came down to the state after the Lcap. In our particular case, it's mostly all ESSER 3 funds because the others weren't part of the state budget to education. So there's essentially 5 questions, and real quickly, how did the district engage educational partners in the use of the funds that were not included in the Lcap? And this is ESSER 3 funds. Second question, how did the district plans use additional concentration grant funds? And you know the answer to that one already. Number 3, and this seems a little redundant, but it answers a broader question. How did the district engage our educational partners in the use of one-time federal funds? So that includes CARES Act and CARSA Act funds. Question 4, how is the district implementing the ESSER 3 plan, including its successes and challenges? And then finally, how is the district ensuring that our ESSER 3 plan is going to be used consistently with the Lcap annual plan? Next slide. So I'm going to take you through each of these prompts. This slide, actually, the contents of the slide probably look familiar to you because this is what I presented to you back in October when you approved the ESSER 3 plan. The question asks, how did we engage our educational partners in the development of that plan? As you'll remember, we had a work group that we worked with at the district level for all the departments to create a kind of a rough draft. And then we convened our district advisory committee. You know, that's a representative body from each of our district schools. It has parents, students, teachers, administrators, and community members in that. And we presented in September twice, September 14th and the 22nd. We reviewed the elements of the initial application. We surveyed those folks, and the input was considered in the plan. So that's how we engaged there. Next slide, please. Prompt 2 asks how we use the concentrator grant funds. And again, we didn't get any of these. This is not applicable to us because our unduplicated student population is under 55%. And when it is, we don't get additional concentrator grant funding. Next slide, please. Third one asks about how we engaged our educational partners for the one-time federal funds. And this should start looking really familiar because that's cut and paste again on how we implemented or how we engaged our educational partners in the ESSER 3 funds, but also down there at the bottom is the CARES Act and the CARSA Act, both enacted on the 27th for their particular months in 2020. It's important to note the CARES Act and the CARSA Act funds were spent almost entirely on personal protective equipment and some of the other immediate needs to keep students and staff healthy and safe as we were to try to bring them back to in-person instruction. At the time of the allocations of these 2 federal funds, there was no requirement for districts to create a particular plan, a written plan. If there had been, I'm sure I would have been involved in the writing of that. And also there was no requirement for districts to partner outside of the district itself to create the plans. And so there wasn't a whole lot of educational engagement with our partners there. But again, those were emergency funds and almost all of them were spent on PPE. Next slide, please. Question 4, prompt 4, asks the question of the district to report on how ESSER 3 funds have or will be used or implemented and also to comment on our successes and our challenges with this. It's important to note here that there were 3 areas of focus when we put the ESSER 3 plan together. Again, you'll probably remember this. Funds to support the overall academic, social, emotional, mental health and safety needs and to maintain district services, funds aimed at the loss of learning and learning time, and then funds that with some restrictions can be spent on other supports like additional guidance technicians, increased interpreting service and things like that. Since the ESSER 3 plan follows, as you will remember, our expanded learning opportunities plan, most of the ESSER 3 funds have not yet been spent. We're implementing that probably starting next year for the most part and the year after. So there's really not a whole lot of successes or challenges to report to the board at this point. We've got some funds encumbered for Chromebooks, but that's really about all we've got so far with ESSER III funds. Next slide. And the final question asks districts how ESSER III funds are used in support or in conjunction with the LPAC goals. And you see here, they've tried to show you how technology and staffing to improve instruction, tutoring, and additional guidance services really support Goal 1 of the Lcap, college and career readiness, and increased interpretation services, additional summer supports, enhancing our facilities and administrative staff support specifically to La Vista La Sierra High School addresses LCAP goal number 2. And then finally, you know that we've really beefed up our mental health specialists and services to students and associated administrative support, and that supports LCAP goal 3. Next slide, please. And so that takes us actually to the LCAP mid-year update itself. We've reviewed the ESSER III funds how they affected the budget overview. You've seen, and we reviewed the 5 questions that make up the one-time supplement. So now we're going to look at the mid-year update. Next slide, please. This is really in 2 parts. There's 2 parts of the update. There's the mid-year outcome data on our metrics, and then there's the mid-year expenditure and implementation data, and we're going to take a look at both. But a couple of things need to be I need to remind you of, first of all. Next slide, please. Number 1, it's important for us to remember that this is, in fact, a mid-year report. So some of our LCAP metrics, some of the outcomes are unknown at this particular point mid-year, some are in progress, and some are known, and we're reporting those. Next slide. This is also true for expenditures in our implementation. Some of them haven't yet been started, some of our actions haven't been started yet, some are in progress, and some have been completed. So there are 3 goals. Goal 1, as you know, is about getting our students college and career ready. Next slide, please. This is the one that will scare you. There's a lot of data on this slide and on some of the following slides, but you've seen this already in the mid-year reports that you all received, so I will not read through it, and the rest of the crowd probably breathes a sigh of relief. That'll shorten it a little bit. But I do want to use this particular slide to kind of walk you through, and some of our guests, how to look at the report and some of the data. So I'll use just kind of that first line for it. So if you look at the first column, that's all our metrics. That's what we look at in the LCAP to determine how we're progressing, what we're doing, how well we're doing. So in this particular case, you look at SBAC results for English and math, and what we're looking at are the percentage of our students that meet or exceed standards. And on the next column over, you see what our baseline was in the LCAP, or is actually there now. The baseline is based on the previous year data when we put the LCAP together. So it's important to remember, the LCAP that we put together is a 3-year document. And so when we put it together this last year, it was a brand new 3-year document. And so we looked at previous year's data as a baseline. So at the time, you can see that in English, 63% of our students who took the test met or exceeded, and in math, 42%. At that time, and you can hit the button again, Weston, thanks. At the time, we also listed our desired outcomes. This is where we'd like to be in 3 years. So in 23-24, we were hoping that 70% of our students would score meeting or exceeding the standards in English, and 50% of our students would be meeting or exceeding the standards in math. That takes us to the 2 columns that are highlighted in yellow, and this is really the mid-year update. You can see that our students in English have made some progress there. Our students in math have really made some really significant progress there. And under the status column, the far right one, pretty much what I list here is where this data came from. Most of this data came from 2021. But in some cases, and you can hit the button again, Weston, if you look down, for example, like on our IB exam pass rate, a pass rate in IB exam is like a 4 or better. You'll see that that says NA there in the mid-year update. And the reason for that is because we haven't had any solid information from IB on tests for the past couple of years. You see that 85% was what our baseline was from 18-19. There were no tests in 19-20, and there were very limited tests in 2021 only for world languages in IB. So we really have incomplete data there. And that's kind of the pattern you'll see as we go through the slides. Next slide, please. The same kind of rule applies for our goals, or for our goal 1 actions, and these are the expenditures and the implementation. The first 2 columns, and Weston, you can hit that again, you can see, first 2 columns are what's in the LCAP now. The action title is a fairly generalized list of the actions that we're going to implement. And you see the budgeted expenditures, and then you see what our estimated actuals are. And these are not to the penny, these are estimated actuals at this point. And in the final column, you'll see some notes on more specifics that are related to that action item. One other thing to note on this here, again, you've all seen this, so I won't read it to you, but sometimes you'll see that we give you some more detail as to why the estimated actuals don't necessarily look like they're halfway through the year. In some cases, they look like they're far below. In this particular case, just as an example, AP and IB test sponsorships that we pay for students who are low-income students, those haven't even been charged yet, and that's the largest portion of what we set aside. So that'll happen in the spring, and that's why you see it's less than it would be normally mid-year. LCAP Goal 2 is about providing equity access to courses with qualified teachers and curriculum instructions based on state standards. Next slide. Again, the same thing here. We're looking at metrics. Here, I'm not going to go through all of it again, but you can see the metrics that are applied here. Appropriately credentialed teachers, percentage of those teachers in classrooms, our learning plan goals, and we have some funds and some metrics set aside for maintenance, facilities, and that kind of thing there, as well as the enrollment of unduplicated students in honors classes. We keep an eye on the number of students who are in CTE courses, visual and performing arts, and world languages to make sure that our students are getting a balanced educational program. Next. LCAP Goal 2 actions are also in the report that you saw. Again, same thing here as you saw in the other one. In this particular one, you'll see a $0 amount in the estimated actuals, and you might ask, well, did we not do anything for our English learners and our foster youth and low-income students? The answer is no, of course we did. But you'll see that we used different funding sources. We had set some funds aside in the LCAP. We didn't end up using those particular funds. We used either Title I, Title III, or some other funding source, so we'll be repurposing those funds. Next slide. And that takes us finally to Goal 3. Goal 3 is about engaging our families, partners, to create a climate of support and success for our students. Next slide. Goal 3 metrics, again, you can see down here, the first 4 or 5 are mostly about engaging our families and our parents and how we're going to measure that. COVID has been pretty tough on our DAC, DLAC, and LPAC committees. We've had lower percentages, lower numbers of folks showing up to those meetings, in spite of the fact that we did a lot of those virtually. So that's hit us a little bit. We expect those to come up as time goes by and we get out of COVID more. You also see some things related to, some metrics related to school climate. And these are required for us to look at. Things like chronic absenteeism, suspension, expulsion rates, graduation rates, dropout rates, and things like that. Next slide. And again, you have, as far as our goals and our actions that are related to those goals, again, you can see some of the same things. This particular slide under Goal 3, you can see where it's a little bit more like what you would expect. This is mid-year, and so you can see that most of those funds have been spent about halfway. You'll notice under the first one, the Kate Weller Barrett School, and that unaccompanied minor program that was part of La Sierra La Vista is no longer. We'd set funds aside for it, but that is no longer in existence, and so we'll be repurposing those dollars as well. So let me recap. Next slide. We've looked at AB 130 requirements that result in the impact on the BOP, our budget overview for parents. We looked at the supplement to the LCAP mid-year update, the LCAP mid-year update on our progress on our metrics, progress on our actions, and our expenditures. And I know you want me to be done, but I want to give you one more slide, because we think it's a good idea for you to see what our progress is on the current development of this next year's LCAP. So where we are right now, or I can tell you where we've been. If you look November through January, we started having meetings with our district advisory committee. Our DLAC committees started giving them an overview of what the LCAP's all about. We're now in February, and things are really kicking off in February. Our focus groups will start at each of the schools. The LCAP survey is actually underway right now. The window's open, and we're surveying our staff, our students, and our parents. That's going on until middle of next week is when that window closes. We'll be meeting with DAC and DLAC committees next week to go over our second round of data. And then we'll be getting some survey results, probably some early survey results at the end of this month, and we'll be starting to set up meetings with our bargaining units. We usually have separate meetings with bargaining units. And then we're also trying ways to reach out to our community to a greater extent, looking for feedback anywhere we can. We've asked the principals, because they rub shoulders with people in the community all the time who are interested in what's going on educationally in our districts. We've asked them to get us some contact info. reaching out to other agencies and organizations like the Chamber of Commerce and things like that. I've already had a couple of meetings with some interested folks from our community, so we're looking to reach out more that way. As you get into the spring, you'll see that through March and April, we go through a couple of drafts of the Lcap, and we present those to various groups like DAC or DLAC again, and we start getting feedback. By the time we get to May, you'll get a pretty solid draft that's already also been reviewed by Orange County Department of Ed, and so we're getting to a pretty close draft by the time we get to May. And then finally in June, we'll be approving it all over again. In June, the first meeting in June, we have the public hearing, and the second meeting in June is when we hope to adopt. And with that, that's my presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to take them.
Great job. President Klatzker, may I say a word before we get some questions? Just to compliment Mr. Zamora. The LCAP, in the best of years, is a complex program to put together. And in this year, it has a higher level of complexity with the additional funds, additional reporting, the additional changes to how we report as well. So I just want to take a minute and on behalf of the entire staff, but just to say thank you to Mr. Zamora. I know Dr. Kaufman's involved too, but Mr. Zamora really does an amazing job keeping things straight and ensuring that we're not only compliant, but that we're doing the proper outreach to develop this plan. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin. Mr. Zamora, I also wanted to say that I appreciate the outreach to the community and attempting to get more community input by doing those Zoom meetings and everything, because obviously our community members are so taxed, as we all are, during this time, and it's been really impactful. And so I wanted to say that I appreciate that you have used your team to reach out in multiple ways to help get that parent and community voice in the development of this. So thank you for that.
Got it. Thank you.
I would like to thank you and Dr. Kaufman I certainly appreciate the metrics that you've developed. You know, I kind of want to go back to the beginning of all of this. This was a result of the local control funding formula, whose purpose was to give additional funds for children that need additional funds to be successful in their education. And the LCAP was the vehicle that we would be reporting to the board, to the community about our success. I think what I'm looking for, so that the community could better understand this, is like an executive summary, something about the history of this and what were the goals and have we reached our goals. And, you know, it's so interesting to me that they put the CARES and the ESSER money in now. I mean, it's really muddied up, I think, the original intent of the way we fund public schools in the state of California. So I just think for the benefit of the public, the benefit of those students who should be benefiting from this. In fact, that first chart that you showed us, the data, was that all students? Was that just the students who are supposed to be served by the local control funding formula? There's so much data. I think in the interest of clarity, it would be better to take it down to the level where we've got an executive summary. Is that too much to ask for? I mean, I don't want to put
Never
any
too
more
much
work
to ask.
on you, but
We appreciate the input, and actually, to your point, the intent of the LCAP was to simplify this, was to bring local control, but also simplify the message out to the community.
but it's not
And,
simple.
and the extra layers have made it even more complex.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea, and we can work on get some, at least some more approachable documents out there as well. This is something that is required to go into this level of depth, but to your point, yeah, we can also showcase it in a way that maybe might be a little more accessible, because that was the intent of the LCAP originally.
I would love if the community would be able to see that we really are using the money that they've given us with some amount of flexibility to serve the students, all our students, but certainly to help those that need the additional steps. So,
And I appreciate your comment, because you can see successes, right? We set some goals a few years ago before COVID started as some baseline, or utilizing some baseline data, and there is some successes in spite of it all.
you see that in the metrics.
Correct,
But
yeah.
again, I don't know that the general public is going to dig down into the really good charts you have.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Thank you. And thank you for all your work. I know it's a huge job, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marilyn. Any other questions?
Question, and it's not for Mrs. Zamora, but thank you though. No, thank you so much for the presentation. Are any of these information on our website for our constituents to be able to access?
Yeah, so part of this is included in the board packet for information, but I think to the point of Mrs. Bushi, there's probably a better way for people to access it rather than having to read our reports. So we can work on simplifying the message and communicating it out in a way that, like I said, is more approachable. And then we can publicize that not just on our website. We can put it on the newsletter. We can definitely highlight that out in the community, and it might draw some more input into the Lcap process for this year as well. This is a unique thing that was new legislation to come forward so that we would do this mid-year report. So it came hard and fast at us, but we can do a better job of getting something out there for our community.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know people have come to me and asked me about how come the principals haven't been able to report out on what the fundings were going for. So I want to make sure that that's on record, that we will have the principals talk about what fundings are being used and resources so that they'll know where their fundings are going, their funds are going. So I think that we had talked about that a little earlier today, and I know the community has been concerned about where is the funding going. So I just want to make sure that's on record.
We'll look at future board meetings.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite CSEA President Joe Slaker to the podium to present the proposal from CSEA.
Thank you, and hello again, Dr. McLaughlin, President Klatzker, members of the board. The California School Employees Association, CSEA, and its Fullerton High Chapter 82 is submitting its initial proposal for public discussion in accordance with Government Code 3547. Fullerton High Chapter 82 is submitting this initial proposal to reopen the collective bargaining agreement between the district and CSEA for successor negotiations. CSEA desires to alter or amend the included articles for the benefit of our bargaining unit members. CSEA looks forward to a cordial and cooperative negotiations between both parties. And if there's no questions, then that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaker. So I will now open the meeting for a public hearing. If anyone has comments, please come to the podium and state your name prior to making comments. Okay, doesn't look like we have any comments. So I declare the public hearing closed. Next, I would like to call on Assistant Superintendent Ruben Hernandez to introduce the representative from the district's auditing firm who will provide reports. Did I skip something? What? Oh, I totally skipped something. You guys, I'm so sorry. Not my finest moment. Totally skipping things on the agenda tonight. I take back what I said, and I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Ed Atkinson to the podium to present the proposal from management.
Thank you, Dr. Klatzker. Members of the board, Dr. McLaughlin. As board members are aware, the California School Employees Association in the district recently concluded negotiations on a one-year contract for the 2021-22 school year. And as part of that contract, it was agreed that we would expedite reopeners for a successor contract, preferably a multi-year contract, immediately. And so as part of the RADA Act, it's required that we hold public hearing for the presentation of the district's initial proposal, which I'm presenting tonight, and recommending that we hold public hearing. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank President Slaker and the members of his team for the fantastic negotiations that we recently conducted. I really appreciate the way you and your team worked with us, and I felt we had a very successful outcome, and we're looking forward to similar negotiations as we move forward. And I'll be contacting you tomorrow so we can start setting up some dates to begin no later than March 1st, but we're anxious to sit down with you and start hammering out a successor contract. As I said, hopefully we'll be able to look at a multi-year contract, understanding we'll have to look at ongoing dollars as part of that discussion. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll now open the meeting for a public hearing again, and if anyone has any comments, please come to the podium and state your name prior to making comments. Okay, not seeing any, I declare the public hearing closed. I want to make sure I don't skip anything, so I apologize for the pause. Okay, so now I think I turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Ruben Hernandez to introduce the representative from the district's auditing firm who will provide both reports that we're about to hear.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, President Klotzker, members of the board. Tonight we will hear from Taylor Ulrich, who is the director that oversees our general audit of financial statements, as well as the audit for Measure I. Taylor will be joining us via Zoom. Taylor? Taylor, give us one moment. We're trying to fix audio.
All right, Taylor, can you talk really quick?
How about now? Can you hear my voice?
Why am I not hearing it? Go ahead.
Okay, so we're good?
Can you hear him? Okay, hold on. You see him? As soon as I can get this to work, it'll be awesome. Sorry, we're working on our technical system. Yeah, can you hold that for me?
No problem, I appreciate it.
Lost my mouse. Sorry about that. Where am I going? Now my computer's all messed up. So you might hear yourself talk. Yeah. You might hear yourself talk. So hold on. I apologize if you do. Okay, go ahead.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me? Am I good to start?
Tell him to turn up. I'm trying. No, my computer just completely just locked up. Nope, my computer just died. Oh, yeah, you're back. Okay. Something's wrong with the unit over there. Can you try it again, Taylor?
How about now? Can you hear me now? How are we doing?
Trying to figure out how to get this done. No, I don't think we're going to be able to get you hooked up. We're looking into the technicals right now.
How about if we move into the consent agenda? Give you a minute and we can cycle back. So go ahead and cancel the mic.
Okay, next on our agenda is the consent calendar. Are there any items that a board member would like to pull from the agenda for separate consideration? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Chester. Any discussion? Okay. I'd like to ask our student board member, Grace, if she'd like to cast her preferential vote.
I approve.
Thank you, Grace. All in favor, vote aye.
I think you have a resolution in here, don't you? Mrs. Harder?
Thank you. Yes, we do have two resolutions on the consent calendar, so we will we have one under HR, and then we also have one under general. So we'll take a roll call vote if you'd like to do the first one, resolution under HR. It's resolution number 2021, number 28, adopting staffing flexibility measures in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order N322.
I don't.
I'm sorry.
Don't we just approve the whole thing with resolution if there are a couple in there, or do we do them individually?
You can just, let's just take a roll call vote for the entire consent calendar. That will cover it.
That's what I think we could do.
Okay,
yeah.
let's just do that.
So we have a motion, a second, you just need to do.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. So we'll start that over. Does Grace get to do a?
She already approved.
She approved it. She approved it. We don't need that,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry about that. Caught me off guard.
Okay.
So, Ms. Klatzker.
Aye.
Dr. Jang.
Aye.
Dr. Calhoun.
Aye.
Mrs. Bushi.
Aye.
Thank you. We're
Thank
good.
you, Mrs. Harder. Thank you,
about
Mrs. Bushi. I appreciate it.
I forgot that a lot, so I understand.
Thank you. Have we made any progress?
We're getting reports for they can hear at home. So we are getting some announcements that at least the people at home can hear, but we're still working on, for those at home watching, we're still waiting to make sure we can hear in the audience. And this was going to be part of my closing, so I'll just kind of thank everybody for putting this board meeting together. This was one of the more complex meetings with Zoom, people in person. We had some phone calls that needed to come in, some intricacies in this. So we apologize to everybody for the technical difficulties on at least the remote call-in. It was working earlier, so we'll give them another minute as they come together.
Dr. McLaughlin, while we're waiting, can I ask a question back on the Lcap report?
Sure.
It was noted that
Mr. Zamora, you want to come up just?
yeah, well,
I'm not sure.
that Kate Waller Barrett program has been discontinued.
Yes. So you'll remember Florence Crittenden, that was part
We have no
of.
teachers in that program any longer?
So the Florence Crittenden changed the way they're doing business, for lack of putting it a better way. They become much more of a temporary housing agency for students. So remember, for years, we had this huge influx of students in foster care, and it came mostly from Florence Crittenden, had mostly young ladies that were coming from LA and places like that. And that's why you saw our foster youth numbers way higher than some of the other schools in our county, because we had that program. That program is no longer in existence the way it was. We had set aside specific places, space, and classrooms, and it was run through La Sierra La Vista, and that program is shut down. So we had set budgeting aside for it, but it's no longer acting in that manner. It's just a temporary housing agency.
So we no longer have teachers
Correct.
involved in that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I was not aware of that.
Usually those staff members have been transferred to other.
Yes,
with-
I would expect, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Doctor.
Do you guys need this back here,
Are we good now?
There we go.
All right. Excellent. Okay.
Oh, so you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sad, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So am I good to proceed?
Yes, Taylor, go ahead, and if you could present your screen as well.
Okay, all right. Well, is my screen being shared? You can see the Fullerton Joint Union High School District up there?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect, all right. Well, good evening, thank you very much for hosting and accommodating me this evening. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but I'm grateful to be here to present the results of the district's annual audit report. My name is Taylor Ulrich. I'm the signing director with the audit firm Clifton Larson Allen, and assigned to your audit of your district. We have completed the external audit for the 2020-21 fiscal year in a process that began last spring. and which was recently completed. Our audit included interaction with numerous individuals within your organization, including significant time with your fiscal department, facilities, and various educational program-related departments. This year's audit was once again a challenging year as we continued working to balance that work remote status, as well as this year the district implemented a new accounting standard. There was required one-time state compliance testing of the distance learning environment at the schools, which was very complicated, and new federal compliance testing related to all the various new COVID funding received during the year. So it was definitely a challenging year for not just us auditors, but for your district as well to stay in compliance and do the things that they're required to do. So the audit report contains the financial statements and other elements of your district that's compiled from records and information from the district. Our portion of the audit report is the independent auditor's report, where we give our various audit opinions, on which there are 4 reports, which I'll explain briefly. The main one is the independent auditor's report on the financial statements, where we express an opinion that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position in conformity with the generally accepted accounting principles. The second is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. This is required under government auditing standards to give an opinion on material weaknesses of internal controls over the financial reporting and on non-compliance. The third one is the report on compliance for each federal program. This is due to the volume of federal monies received and spent. We're required to do additional testing and issue this opinion on whether there are any direct and material compliance issues. And the last one is the independent auditor's report on state compliance. The state of California requires us to assess several compliance issues related to state funding and our programs and issue an opinion on compliance with those steps. So there's basically 4 types of audit opinions which we give. The highest is an unmodified opinion, where we say that the financial statements present fairly the financial position in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. This is the highest and what we like to call a clean audit opinion. If overall everything looked fine except for a particular area or section of our audit, we would issue a modified opinion or a qualified opinion. If the financial statements do not present fairly the position, then we would issue an adverse opinion. And lastly, if we are unable to get adequate information to even offer an opinion, we would issue a disclaimer of an opinion. So for your main opinion over the financial statements, we are happy to report that we issued an unmodified opinion, again, which is the highest and best that a district can receive. For the other reports, we were able to opine that there were no deficiencies in internal control that we considered to be material weaknesses, and no instances of non-compliance that we were required to report. On the federal side, for the federal audit opinion, the 3 major programs tested this year were the Child Nutrition Cluster, and then 2 new programs related to all the new COVID funding, the Coronavirus Relief Fund and the Education Stabilization Fund. And our opinion is that in all material respects, the district complied with the compliance requirements and had no deficiencies in internal control over compliance that we would need to report. So another clean opinion there. And lastly, for the state compliance section of our audit, we were able to give an opinion that the district complied with the laws and regulations of the state programs tested in all material respects. A full list of the 24 programs the state requires us to review and a breakdown of the 12 applicable to your district can be found in the audit report on page 98. And you can see that there's a numerous amount of programs that we have to look at. And then furthermore, we can report that there were no audit adjustments discovered, which means that the unaudited actuals that were presented to the board back in September are the same as included in this audit report. It was also noted there were no audit findings in the current year and that the prior year findings were implemented in the current year. So that's what that has to do with the district audit report. We were also engaged to report on the financial and performance audit of the Measure I funds as related to the bond election in November 2014. And we can report on that for the financial audit. We gave an unmodified opinion as well with another clean opinion. And we had no deficiencies in internal controls or non-compliance to report as well. And then for the performance audit, our objective was to review the expenditures and verify that they were in accordance with the bond projects that were approved by the voters. And our opinion was that the expenditures were found to be in compliance with Measure I as well. So that is the results, and I'll stop sharing. And I'd just like to thank Ruben Hernandez, Todd Butcher, and their staff, along with the many other departments and school personnel that helped us provide the information we needed to gain these opinions and to provide the results of this audit. And with that, is there any other questions that you may have?
Do you have a question, Marilyn?
I really don't have any questions, but in that brief presentation, it looks like a really good outcome to me.
Yeah.
And now, Ruben, you've been here half a year, so you get half a year credit for all of that, is that correct? And your predecessor as well, so thank you. Thank you for that report.
Okay, no other questions, Chester, Vicki? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Taylor. And so
Thank you.
tonight we'll need an action item on item number 1 for the general audit, and then item number 2 for the Measure I audit. We need approval for the general audit for item number 1 and item number 2 for the Measure I.
It's just listed as a report on the agenda, is not action, am I correct on that?
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Dr. McLaughlin, I appreciate that. Okay, so we jumped ahead while we were working on our technical issues, and we took care of the consent calendar already, so that brings us to board member and superintendent comments. Are there any comments from the board tonight? Okay, just really quickly, I'd like to thank all of our school counselors in our district in honor again of National School Counseling Week. It's a tough job, and they do so much good work to support our students and staff, so I just want to recognize them one more time. Grace, any other comments? Okay, Dr. McLaughlin? Okay, so we will now recess to closed session to continue discussion on the items we already discussed or mentioned. Thank you.